All right, welcome back to Poddy Majic. I have got a awesome guest straight off the set of Australian Idol. Here he is.
Yes.
We've got Sash Seabourne, mate. Welcome to the Poddy Majic. We're going to let this play out.
Oh my
Does that
God.
give you PTSD or what?
Yeah, that's trauma. I got trauma right there. Oh my God.
Proper. Hey, mate, thanks so much for coming down and doing an episode with me.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's first podcast.
Yeah. So a little bit of background. Obviously, we met each other over in Sydney in the lovely place of Rooty Hill.
Rooty Hill.
Yeah. How did you find your Rooty Hill experience?
Look, dude, it was the other side of the tracks. It was
The other side of the tracks, yes.
I was glad to experience it, but I'm okay to be out of there as well.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So Rooty Hill, for anyone that hasn't been there, probably wouldn't recommend going that much. It's like if you're a Perth listener. It's like being in Gosnells, but they've got the Perth Arena in Gosnells. That is actually what it is. They've got this massive amphitheatre. It's a really nice theatre that they filmed all the Idol stuff in, and it's absolutely massive. But it's just in the most random location ever.
It's like the best venue in Sydney in the worst suburb of Sydney.
It just made and also like to get there. If you're someone that's just coming from Sydney to get there, it's nowhere near the train. Like the train line and station is like 900 meters away.
Yeah.
You walk through goats. There's goats on the way past. There's like
cows and shit.
It is the most random spot ever, but pretty cool venue. But yeah, we met each other there. I was over with Beck doing all the Idol stuff. I feel like even though I wasn't a contestant, I was almost a contestant.
You were part of the family, dude. You and Elliot were like part of the crew.
Yeah. And then we started doing, I was training at the gym there. The gym at the centre was actually really sick. And we started training together and, we
kept me sane.
Yeah, mate, me too. I was like, I had even less to do than what you did. I was sitting in a fucking hotel room the whole time doing absolutely nothing. So we started training together, and when you get training, you get chatting, and we became pretty tight, and it was good to get to know you. So I thought, what a great opportunity to get you on the podcast and talk about everything Sash.
Yeah, dude, it's all fresh, so I'm stoked to be here and vent it all out today.
Most definitely. So let's start what everybody wants to hear about. Let's go the Idol stuff first.
Sure.
So tell me about your Idol experience. Why did you apply? How did it all start?
Oh, dude. I mean, they just DM'd me on Instagram.
Oh, they DM'd you?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
right,
a wild story. So, I mean, I was just like kind of going about my own solo project and doing music independently, and then I got a DM from someone being like, I'm a casting producer from Channel 7, and I thought it was a joke. Something
totally
fake, and kind of was like, right. But then, went down that road, and after a lot of speculation and thought, I ended up, auditioning and went over to Sydney, as you know, and just kind of did the whole experience, and it's been, dude, I had a great run. Looking in retrospect, I do feel very fortunate on how well everything came together, and I had a really clear goal going into what I wanted to achieve, and that was to connect with people and to build an audience, and I think I got everything I needed out of it, and
absolutely.
I feel like they got what they needed out of me.
Definitely.
And kicked out the other end now, and I'm just like looking forward to having my freedom back and playing my own songs again.
That's actually crazy that they reached out to you, and so you had no interest at all until that message came through?
I don't think I ever thought about doing a singing show,
Really?
and I don't think I ever would have. It was just a thing of, I had been doing my music and really putting myself out there that year, and played I think I played nearly 100 shows last year. And
you're so you pop up on socials for all sorts of different pages, like the Triple J. Do post about. What's that other one that do the articles as well?
Ilky,
that's it. Yeah. Like there's been a few bits and pieces about you on there as well. So
up in the sauce. A little bit.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's funny because how I actually for Love Island when I was auditioning. I was at this cafe down here, and similar sort of stuff with my work and Body Magic and everything I had going on. I was like, oh yeah, with my manager at the time, he's like, oh, why don't you think about going on a show? And I was like, oh yeah, like maybe I could. I was just recently single. Yeah, like oh yeah, that could work. And he's like, oh, Love Island's got their stuff out. I was like, oh yeah, cool. He goes, oh, but just go and ask your mum first before we start doing it, just to make sure it's all good. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, sounds good. So, with the intention of doing it, we went to this cafe literally just up the road here, and we're sitting there. I was like, oh, mum, like I'm thinking about doing this show. It's called Love Island. Telling her all about it. And as we're sitting, I'm telling mum about this is what this show, and I'm thinking about applying for it. I've got my phone there. ITV casting wants to send you a message, and I was like, what the fuck? And opened it and said, "Hi, Jared, we just come across your profile. We think you'd be great for..." And I was like, "Are you fucking joking?" So like, that was like a sign just to go and do that. So
it's funny that you say that. You know, I felt like I had a really similar experience where the planets kind of aligned. I was at uni studying guitar because my background was always I was a guitar player. I never really did this.
You're studying guitar at uni?
I was doing guitar full time at uni, contemporary performance in guitar, and I had got to a point in my life where I was like touring a lot and starting to move over east and play a lot of shows, and you know, I was living two lives that both required 100%, and I had to make a really tough call at the middle of last year to defer that course because I just knew in my soul that I really wanted to pursue being a singer-songwriter and be a more serious musician. And wildly, like a month after, I had kind of just thrown that to the side and really decided to level up and commit to the experience of rehearsing by myself and, you know, getting really in the zone. The idol thing came up for me like a month later. So it's wild how when you put that energy out into the world, it comes back.
Very much so. It's just like opportunities just pop up when you put yourself into positions, you know.
I think the manifesting thing is very powerful and very real, but you got to be careful what you wish for.
Most definitely,
yeah.
And you were gigging, you were touring around, you know, with your own songs and albums and stuff that you've done as well. Tell us a little bit about that on the lead up to Idol, exactly what you were doing and what sort of tours and shows and everything that you were getting up to.
Yeah, so I started playing solo in 2021, and I had kind of just come out of a few years of playing in different bands and was always a guitar player. And then, you know, I had found myself during COVID, like down south where I'd grown up and living on a bush. I was living in a caravan for like 2 months on a bush block, like just surfing and totally dodging the lockdown,
just
which
I
felt pretty guilty about.
Life,
yeah, dude, like fully dog bludging surfer lifestyle. Loved it, and I was just like there alone and wanted to make music and started writing all these songs. And I've always been someone that just kind of, if a door opens, I've always walked through it. And musically, the solo thing was just it connected instantly, and it felt like something to follow. So, you know, fast forward a couple of years, like 2022, that I had done 2 tours like independently off my own back around Australia before Idol hit me up. And so going over to Sydney for Top 50, that was my 3rd time going over east. And
insane.
It was a point in my life where I was just kind of like not taking no for an answer anymore, and was really committed to putting music out there and you know, connecting with others, because that's at the core of it. I think musically that's what it's always been about for me. It's about, you know, relating to others and building community and connecting in a way that's more, it feels more intuitive for me than, you know, through words or through conversation. It's like I just play my songs and that's how I relate to the world.
Yeah, most definitely. So for anybody that maybe hadn't watched the show, tell us a little bit about the stages you got to, what the auditions were like, what the next sort of stage, all that. So just like a bit of a crash course for people that might have not seen the episode so far.
Yeah, crash course. I mean, auditions at Optus Stadium, which is where I met you and Beck. Yeah, it was a good time. I mean,
long day. I was there for fucking almost 12 hours.
Yeah, it was
ridiculous.
Brutal. Yeah, and that was to be our life for a few months.
Hey? Yeah, sure, yeah.
Foreboding. So yeah, got in there and I was like, yeah, kind of nervous, but I more so just felt like a guy from the other side of the tracks. You know, I'd always been in the independent scene, and there's a bit of a rift between like quote unquote commercial music and independent. So I felt like I was crossing the tracks into the pop route a little bit and was a little bit uneasy about the thing. But once I actually got in there and you know, play for the judges, I was like super stoked by how well I was received, and I got 4 yeses, went straight golden ticket straight to Sydney, and then we did
You beauty.
Yeah, and then we did Top 50 week, and that was like intense. I mean, that was more than 12-hour days. I feel like we were just there every day shooting all day, and 60 people or something got condensed down in 24, so it was a bit of a massacre.
Yeah, totally.
And met some great people through there, like particularly, you know, people like Piper Butcher and of course all the WA crew like Beck and Sarah, like got really close with some crew straight away and listened to the same music and felt like we made some really cool connections. And then, yeah, I did all those challenges and went straight through the top 24, which we've just come back from. So top 24, top 12, made it to top 10.
Unreal.
And about a week ago, it just got publicly booted.
Roasted.
Robbed.
But it's a really brutal process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's what you see on the TV, and it's the same with Love Island and any other reality show.
Totally.
There's so much more that goes on to what actually gets on the screen as well, and it's so emotionally intense. And when you're in the bubble of it all, holy shit, it's like that's your world, what's going on. It feels like you're going to die if you get kicked out.
Well, it's amazing talking to you about this because you were there. And it's very hard to explain what that experience is like when you weren't in the room. But, you know, you go over to Rudy Hill and you've got a hotel on one side of the street and the venue that we shoot in on the other side of the street. And it's kind of like a compound. It's almost like...
There's literally a gate around it.
I don't want to say prison, but it kind of feels like that. You know, you're like, you come across the country from WA, you're there by yourself and you go into this like super high pressure environment where it's like, we're doing music, we're doing camera, we're doing makeup, we're doing wardrobe, we're doing this. And it's just like a relentless grind where you always feel like you have to be hyper alert because people are, you know, their eyes are on you, and that pressure only mounts as the weeks go on. And you've got no one from home to kind of keep you sane. Like you're calling home all the time, but it's not. You're just in this kind of like weird alternate reality that doesn't feel normal in any sense, and you're constantly trying to come across as authentic. I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, you know, you have all of a sudden a lot less control than what you normally do in a you know, an independent background where you can think about how you want to look and of course writing your own songs and what venues you want to play and what sort of people you want to play with. It's like you go into the world stage in front of the whole country, and you're kind of just clinging to the small amount of control you have in a very big machine. And for me, it was like not without its challenges to stay super authentic and honest, because I didn't want to do anything on that show that I wouldn't do on my own headline show. I wanted to you know, introduce myself to the country in a way that was authentic and honest, and people knew who I was, so that if they wanted to hear my own songs, they would follow on. And dude, it was a pressure cooker and like one of the hardest things I've ever done. But also, I feel like, if anything, proud to have gone in there, you know, stayed honest and come out with my head high.
Most definitely. And like I said, I was there with you, even though I wasn't doing the things. That was hard for me being there, bro. Like it was like, you know, like you said, in the spot where it was in, you've got, you know, my whole thing when I was there was just working around with whatever Bex got on. You know, okay, cool. I'd make sure I'm fucking back at the hotel as soon as she's back. Yeah. If you need food, yep, cool. It was just making sure that she was all good, just to, you know, have someone there for her. But like you said, you being by yourself, missing home, and, you know, in this environment that, you know, does feel a little, it's just so strange. It is really, really hard to be your authentic self in an environment that is like that, where it's very like fabricated this way and that way, and it's a show and it's all that sort of thing. So I can't imagine how difficult that would have been for you.
I think particularly when you come from a background of having total control, and you never really realize how valuable that freedom is to portray whoever you want to be. Like going into this, it was like, they're like, here's Sash Seabourne, the surfer from Margaret River. He's got long hair and he does this and he does that. And it was like, whoa, like this is such a strong vibe they're putting forward, which, you know, I guess that is all true to me in a way, but it's like, I didn't get no one was asking me how I wanted to be portrayed. It was like totally, you sign a contract where it's like, all this footage belongs to the production company and they can exploit it however you wish. So I was like kind of in constant fear of like coming off in a way that was not who I was. And
most definitely.
You know, like just already it being a stretch from being a songwriter and feeling like music was always about authentic expression for me, and then just being in this space where it was like very airbrushed and I've got a face full of makeup and some dude's trying to give me a spray.
You don't wear makeup regularly?
No, it's not really my thing. Dude, some guy tried to give me a spray tan. Like that's...
don't say no to the spray tans. I spray tan sometimes.
Do you spray tan?
Sometimes. Not for... It just depends on what it is, but just a little bit of Bondi sand, just a small layer.
Tahitian princess.
Just a little touch.
Well, respect. Touch. I mean, now I regret it that I didn't do it. Bugger. There's still time.
And when you look back on it, do you think that was a really positive experience for you, or was there bits that you would have changed or anything like that?
Yeah, man. Like one thing I've been asked a lot in the last couple of weeks is like, you know, do you think I should do this or would I recommend it to someone else? You know, I think it's totally up to the individual. Like I would say if you're going into one of these things and you want to, you know, be a small cog in a very big machine, you have to know who you are. Yep. And you have to know what you want out of the experience. You have to define your expectation.
I think you have to have a bit of a plan before you even go into it and do it, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. If you're going in like, well, I think I kind of have a talent, but I don't really know. I've only sung in my bedroom and I want to win, and they're your goals, like it's very likely going to come out disappointed. So I went in there being like, I'm just trying to build an audience. I just want to connect with other people, and, you know, I know who I am, and I'm committed to being honest with that. And so I was able to walk out, you know, at the end of the road feeling like, you know, satisfied, and that I wouldn't change anything about my experience on Idol.
Most definitely.
But yeah, dude, I mean, like, if anything that I was proud of, it was probably to stay authentic when I was continuously battling for control, and it's a pretty wild thing to be a part of, where like you just have to just stand your ground
and honestly, but you're just there for the ride as well. Like you said, you're trying to be yourself and stand your ground and do what you and get what you need out of it. But you're also just fucking strapping yourself in and just seeing where that takes you.
That's true. And I probably called like 30 people before I ever said yes to doing Idol, being like, do you think I should do this? And like I felt like I knew what I was getting myself into, and I definitely didn't.
No, honestly, you do not know until you rock up. On a TV show, you never know what. So, and just on that point as well, it's the same with, my Love Island experience with people that went in and they're thinking, oh, I'm going to do this show. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to get all these followers. I'm going to host a TV show and a radio show. And that is not the reality of it. It's you got to go in with a plan. So there's a lot of people that did much better than I did in terms of gaining a following. And they're all doing the same jobs as what they did beforehand. I'm going, what the fuck? Like, I've got 80,000 followers and able to do some really cool stuff. I'm like, I couldn't imagine what I'd be able to do with 400,000.
But
holy shit,
you've got the grind. Like I've always respected and admired how committed you are to your grind and how much you're consistent with putting stuff out. And I think that's the thing about any of these shows is if you're gonna go into this journey being like, oh, I'm gonna come out the end of it, I'm gonna be a star. It's like, no, I mean, the reason you don't hear about a lot of these people after they finish the show is it's still just as difficult to keep your career going, but you have to. That's where the journey starts.
Exactly.
It's more about what you do after the show than the show itself. And like, I feel like I'm in the last couple of days just staring down a really big year of working and committing, but also a really big year of reaping the benefits of that if you're willing to, take the plunge.
Yeah, definitely. And man, I just thought last bit on the Idol stuff and then we'll go on to more fun bits. But I thought your performances were fucking great.
Oh,
I
thank you,
thought they were so good.
Thank you, dude.
Your guitar playing is elite.
Thank you.
And yeah, just the whole thing was going on. I thought it was fucking awesome. So anyway, let's move on from Idol stuff and let's go into more fun stuff. All right. So rate the episode a big 5 stars. Literally take you 20 seconds to do any of those things, and would really, really appreciate it. But let's get back to the episode with Sash. Here we go. Into the fun stuff. So I want to know all about Sash. How did you become Sash Seabourne? So let's go right back to the start. Tell us a little bit about you growing up, your family, and how you got into music.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I have been WA boy my whole life.
Down south, eh?
Down south, so Margaret River.
Beautiful place.
And I think it was probably year 7 band in Margaret River Primary School where I joined as a bass player, and we were doing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, and I was
absolute banger.
I think we were pretty trash, but I kind of got the bug. I was like, this is something that I feel like is really exciting.
What year was that? Did you say 9?
Yeah, I was 11 years old, so it was year 7 band.
Year 7.
So yeah, I mean, I think growing up down there, it was a slower pace, and it's a very salt of the earth sort of community, and people really respect and react to music really well. So I do often feel very grateful to come from a regional town and have that been such a kind of like nurturing place to get into music. Like I was probably 14 or 15 when I met 2 of my best friends. They're still really good friends of mine now, and they're still both prominent musicians down south, but 2 guys named Danny Alcorn and Ollie Quinlan, and we were at the bus stop together in year 9. We were going to different schools, but we just started talking about music, and they were playing guitar, and I think they were playing like One Direction songs.
Always good.
And all the year 12 girls were coming to watch their talent show, even though they're in year 9. And I was immediately very interested in getting in on that. So I was like, show me how to do that. And so I got off the bass and I got into guitar. And, at that time, it's like guitar's a beautiful instrument just to sit down and have a strum, and acoustic, I felt like I just got the bug, and it made me want to play and practice. And that's how you wind up getting good from just spending all those hours. So by the time they got me into it, and it was like year 9, year 10, I was like spending all my recesses like hid in the music room, just learning Matt Corby songs and Boy and Bear and Ben Howard and like all that, folk music. That's the stuff that really got me into it when I was starting out. And that's probably where I first got the bug. Yeah.
That's awesome. And did you ever have any actual like formal lessons? Were you all self-taught, or was it the guys that you're hanging out with and your mates that was sort of showing you how to play and get into everything?
Yeah, I took a couple lessons on guitar. So I had learned the basic chords, but I think it was for me like listening to music that I loved and became a fan of, and like with folk music and acoustic music, you can hear the parts, you can hear the singing. It's all very musically kind of intimate and stripped back and really beautiful in that way. So I was like hearing my friends doing that and hearing them singing in harmony and playing guitar and playing these songs I loved, and then listening to the music. And that was the missing link where I was like, I can actually do this, and I can write my own stuff, and I can follow this path. So as soon as we did that and then started playing live, we were doing obviously like open mics at first and playing at like mates, like Auntie Barb's wedding, or like wherever we could get a gig, for 2 people and a dog sort of thing. As soon as we started doing that, like I just that was it. As soon as I started playing live, that was it, because I was kind of an awkward kid growing up, and I was pretty quiet and introverted, and had been bullied a whole bunch when I was in high school because I was like a little bit chubby, and I just had a rough upbringing and felt very introverted. Like music was a way that I could immediately relate to people better than I could relate with words, and people connected with me straight away when I was playing music. So it just became kind of like a necessary means of communication that was like very, I felt compelled to do it. It was a need more than a want.
Yeah. Wow. Well, man, fucking, I didn't know that part about that at all, and that's crazy because, man, that happened to me too. I had the worst time in high school.
I remember we spoke about this a little bit.
Yeah,
man,
I had the fucking worst time.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I'm so like I am now, and I like doing all the stuff I do now, because it was probably just like this pent up sort of confidence that I had. And it sounds like it's the same when you got out on stage. You were just like, oh my god, this is where I let it all out, and this is where I feel like I belong.
Totally. I mean, you have a tough time when you're growing up, and it's like, I wish it didn't happen to either of us, but in a way you kind of come out and you use that as fuel to go forward. And I think we're both like pretty driven and ambitious people, probably because you had that sort of an upbringing. So
most definitely.
Yeah.
And then when did you decide you were going to be a singer too? Because obviously you talked about, you're playing guitar, you just started with the bass. When was that transition?
Dude, I was horrendous to start.
Have you got any like audio files?
Yeah, and you'll never see them.
No, I want to see those. Damn.
They'll never get leaked. I was the worst singer starting out. People always say like, oh, like I wish I was talented. Like I was the most below average subpar singer starting out. So I used to go to the park across the road from my house when I was like 15, and I would put my headphones in so I couldn't hear myself, and I would try and sing along to like Matt Corby songs or something, and I would just sing so loud, and I think it just...
And in your head you're going...
I was like, I've got it.
Yeah,
like, I'm
awesome.
a superstar. And I probably sounded like a cat dying or something. And I just remember I
was down south. It sounded like farm noises.
Yeah,
anyway.
Thank God we're on a few acres so no one could hear it. But like, I think if anyone would have heard it, they would have banished me down to the next paddock or something. So that was how I started. I just like put my headphones in and was like, just pretended that I was like in these songs that sounded great. And for years was terrible. I remember, I think I put a video out of me singing Big Jet Plane by Angus and Julia Stone when I was like 15, 16. And that was the first thing I ever did. And I kind of was terrified to do it. But, a couple girls in high school that I was with that like commented, and they were like, yeah, not bad. And I was like, yes, like, awesome. This is all I need to continue.
This is all worth it. Yeah.
And then, like as soon as I finished school, just from performing, I had become so into music and like really early had just decided that it's what I was going to do. I was like, this is my thing now. And that was a really resilient kind of core value that I had. I was like, even at 16, 17, going out of school, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And just from live performance, I don't think I had very much, talent or ability at all at that time, but I was just very stoic about this is what I was going to do. And so I went straight in and did a couple of years of music school, straight out of high school, and had joined a band at that time. And that was kind of when I started performing live as a singer. But man, crazy thing about me is like I was never a singer first. Like I always got into the guitar, and
which is so interesting. That's why that's quite unusual, because usually you kind of can work out like relatively, because everybody's singing along to the radio and you're doing your thing, and you can actually sing okay. But there was never that when you were growing up, particularly.
No, and I think that's what made the idol thing and what's just happened to me so mind-blowing for me, because I had all this insecurity that I was bringing in that other people didn't have, where I was like, I'm totally not a singer. Like I don't know how I got here. I am like such an underdog compared to all these guys and girls who've grown up their entire life.
Got that full imposter syndrome going on.
Yeah, like childhood prodigies everywhere, and I'm just like a guitar player who's somehow found their voice. But I'm still pretty new to singing. Like I really had a bit of a reinvention and an epiphany moment in the last kind of 12 months where I really stepped up my grind in every way, and I took a lot of lessons and did a lot of coaching to get into Idol, and I was proud of my performances. But really, like, you know, all through my teenage years, I was just mostly playing guitar and singing badly, like singing average at best, you know, just like kind of getting away with it. But being a guy in a rock band who could be like, rockin' baby, like, but like, no, dude, no Matt Corby story here. Not
no. Well, but it's so funny that when you you're touching on those songs and those videos, whatever that you did early on, and just that the consistently, you know, getting a bit better and just keep doing it, persisting and sharpening your craft. Yeah. When you look back on it now, you just go, whoa, look at the progression.
Yeah.
Like that is such a satisfying thing to see, isn't it?
It is a beautiful thing. And I think I'm at that point in my life, like, I don't know if you feel this, but like once you hit mid-20s, you're kind of at a point where you're like, you're still young enough to realize that you're a young man, but you're old enough to realize like how long you've been doing it for. Like being 18 was 7 years ago for me. And I'm like, wow. Like, even though like music has always been a rocky road for me and it's a tough business and it's kind of like a jagged path forward, I really am proud to look back and go, like, I always was consistent with it. And that's the only thing I've ever done. Like, I was always 100% on this, and the progression of how much I've come forward in that time makes me excited, because whenever Harry Connick Jr. shot me down in flames for my pitching or something, which was fair. Like, there was a few performances where I was not super proud of, but I'm like, man, in 7 years' time, I know that I'll still be doing this, and I can't wait to be twice as good as I was 7 years ago. And
be bigger than fucking Harry Connick Jr.
Yes, you and me, Harry, 1v1. No, I've forgiven him.
And you touched on the feeling that you get when you're on stage, and you're like, so the second that you got up there, you went, yep, this is it, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I love. Yeah. What's that feel like when you're up there and when you're performing?
It's so profound. It's really difficult to liken it to anything else, but it's quite spiritual in the sense that I don't want to sound like a fucking stereotypical like rock guy or something, but it's like you're under the effect of a drug or something. It's like you're in some kind of different state of consciousness than you are. You're all your emotions and all your feelings are kind of amplified, and you're in this really kind of like, I find when I get on a good night, I'm in a really meditative space, and it's somewhat spiritual. It's like being in a meditation or being in a prayer. Like, one thing I really feel like is, if you listen to a tape back of yourself playing live a year ago or a few years ago, and it's like you at your best, you may not recognize that it is you playing, because it feels like you're actually getting to a point of inspiration when you're channeling something that is kind of a bit divine and kind of beyond you, and you're like, who is that playing? And it's like, that's you on a great night where you've gotten out of your own way. So I have a bit of like a spiritual sample.
Man, no, I love it. The thing I love most about you talking about is how passionate and like and you've actually put a lot of thought into it. I reckon that, you know, it's probably not just something that I've just asked you, that you've never been asked before about that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, it's a space that I try and access every night when I get up, and I don't always get there, but at the best of times, I feel like I'm kind of I'm stepping aside and being a conduit and letting my kind of spirit come forward. And music can be, when you're playing live, can be so improvisational, and you're so just like intuitively going off feeling. So I think people really sense that off me when they see it, that I'm really in it, and like they give that energy, and you take energy from the crowd, and it's very reciprocal. And as you can hear, I'm very passionate about playing live.
I love it. And there has to be genuinely something biological that happens in your brain when you do that. There must be some massive release of, I would have to look into that a little bit more. It's exactly, you know, I guess the chemical or the hormonal things that happen, because it's got to be.
I would love to hear Huberman Labs or something do some podcast on this, because it's not a dopamine hit. Like, you get the dopamine hit after the show where you're like, I've achieved something, and that's amazing. But it's more some altered, heightened state that you get into, where you're not actually thinking about how many pre-sale tickets you sold, or if the lights are too loud on stage, or you're not looking at, it's like you're completely in some trance, and you're just letting the song come through you, and you're just a conduit for that. And
it's almost like a fight or flight thing, isn't it? Where it's like, I guess the nerve and the surge of the rush of doing it, and then it's just like how you're settling yourself to be in that moment and to perform in that moment. I guess I'm sure there's got to be some research done on it.
It's remarkable how it turns on, because, you know, when people talk about stage fright, like, everyone gets stage fright. I mean, usually you'll get stage fright when you're looking out on a crowd and you're about to go on, but then as soon as you hit that first chord and you get into the song, you just kind of enter this state. And it's funny watching people do that. You can see their their nerves evaporate and they just kind of fall into this like very euphoric trance thing. And like, I just kind of spend my life trying to chase that.
It's awesome, bro. And like I said, the passion when you talk about it, I love it.
It's real.
Love it, man. Real. It is very real. I feel it. And then first gigs. What was your first gig that you went and played?
Yeah. I started open mics and I was doing them with my friends, and we would do like...
And was it as a band, or were you doing this solo at this point?
This was with my friends Ollie and Danny, and we would do, a song in harmony where we would sing a few together.
Did you have like a name of like your little crew? Or?
We should have had a name.
We should have had a name.
The band didn't take off. We ended up all going solo anyway, clearly, as you can see. Yeah, dude. I just started playing by myself. Like it's funny. Like I was playing as Sash for like 17-year-old, 18-year-old, and I was just kind of doing my first like open mics at Mojo's and like asking my friends. I had a really good friend who played drums in the band Great Gable, so I got to support Great Gable when I was like fresh 18 or something, and like just beginning to get into the thing. I think I always wanted to be in a band growing up. Like I was really in love with the community, and when I talk about this like emotional state of playing on stage, that is totally such a beautiful thing when you get that with other people, when you get kindred spirits on stage. Like you can see people who are having like a fist fight off stage, but then when a band gets together on stage, they're in love with each other because they're just sharing.
It's like
this
a team.
high.
It's just like playing like a team sport.
It must be like that. Yeah. So like no matter, you put all your personal differences to the side when you're in a performance setting. So I had grown up like on weird like Reddit forums and shit being like, does anyone want to start a band in Perth? Like I'm 15, and I was just so set on it. And then by the time I got like, about 18 years old, I got to start my first band, and that went into like a big string of playing different styles of music for other people. I actually played drums in a band for 2 years.
Joking.
Like, yeah. And up until like pretty recently, like I was just trying to find my way. And like, it's kind of what I was circling back to before, where it was like, it took me a long time to draw my line in the sand and be like, this is who I am. And like, I think when you're a solo musician, it takes a long time to edit down that identity and that brand and go, this is who I am. And I had to do all these different years of playing in different bands, and I moved over.
Well, it's just reps, isn't it? It's just trying to, like you said, working out what works. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I moved to Melbourne. I was there for a year, like just playing in a punk band, and like had a bit of a phase where I just like got a mullet and
had a mullet.
Had some big nights.
Bro, you're killing me with all the. We got to bring out some photos.
I've lived many lives, dude. Like, yeah, we can. Maybe. I'm
gonna clip it up, and I want a mullet. I want a mullet photo on one of the clips.
It was so bad. It was like horrendous. It was like shaved at the top and long at the back.
Yes.
I used to get stopped in the street. People thought I was like robbing their car or something. I was just walking down the street. I had to do all that to kind of get to my brand solid and know like this is what I wanted to do, and I feel like I really had just achieved that just before Idol happened. And then so Idol is like the best experience of that was like keeping that intact through that whole experience. And I feel very in line with who I want to be for the rest of this year. I think I probably rambled that. I don't know if that answered your question.
That's good. I was just first gig.
First gig was open mics. Yeah. And then, it's
progressed on
slow.
All the other phases of Sash.
Yeah. And like, Perth is really good as a music scene.
Yep.
So like, it's a very small community, and because it's small enough, there's a ragtag kind of camaraderie thing that happens where you might be playing with like a hip hop ensemble or like a jazz fusion band or like a indie rock thing, but like you're all in the same lineup and you're all just like, we're in Perth, we're in the most isolated city in the world, we're on this like weird rock in the middle of nowhere, let's do a gig. And so it was very collaborative, and I fell into the music scene like really hard as soon as I turned 18, and I would go to Mojo's like 4 or 5 nights a week and just watch all these bands. And that's where I spent my kind of formative years, like cutting my teeth. Like I was really inspired by other bands, and I really loved being part of that music scene. And, that's where gigs happen for me. And like when you talk about all the great bands that have come out of Perth, and I think it's a great time to be from Perth.
Most definitely.
Like Spacey would probably be the greatest example of that, but there's so many other awesome bands that are really like representing the country. I mean, like when I started out, Spaceys were playing the open mic night to Mojo's at the same time. So there was like
crazy.
It was a beautiful close-knit community of people just starting out, and that was a big influence for me growing up.
Yeah, most definitely. And there would have been some gigs in your time. You've done so many shows around the place now that maybe didn't go to plan as well. Is there any that really stick out that you go, holy shit,
all the time.
That was not a good one.
I've got stuff coming up that I'm worried is going to be like, dude, I'm just like the worst for being like an old man in terms of my touring grind. Like I end up in the weirdest towns. Like I've played like, I've played like Onslow. Onslow sucks. I wouldn't go to Onslow again. It's not even a real town. They don't.
Well, it's like near Exmouth. It's like an hour from Exmouth, isn't it? Onslow?
It's way far north, and it's just like a mining kind of settlement. And I think I just played for like 2 miners crying into their beer sort of thing at the end of the shift. Like,
what were you singing to them?
I think
that's something more happy. So
you got to pick your battles when you're out there. So I think I sang like Cold Chisel or something, whatever they want to hear. Dude, I'm just like. We'll play anywhere. We'll like do a gig anywhere. I feel like I've just done more shows than I probably even needed to do, but I've always been so in love with playing live. So.
Or another Body Magic coach to keep you accountable, answer any questions, give you support, and just guide you all throughout the process to make sure you're achieving your goals the easiest and best possible way you can. So if you're interested, I would absolutely love to have you on board, and just head on over to www.bodymagic.fit. We've got some really cool new features coming out in the next month or two as well, so stay tuned for that big website update, which I'm super excited to launch and get everybody using. But let's get back to the podcast with Sash. Here we go. Now, I want to know about the process of songwriting, because you've written heaps of songs. Yeah. You've got so many more songs in the works you've been telling me about before we started the pod. How do you even start? It fascinates me. How do you even start with a song? Are you someone that starts with the lyrics first? Do you have the music first? The stories that you write about? Is it personal experience? All that sort of stuff. It's so fascinating to me because you hear lots of different things from lots of different people.
Yeah, I think everyone has a very different process, and it kind of takes years and years of doing it to refine that. I mean, I'm a big free writer, so my mother's a poet, and she kind of...
She really?
Yeah. So she's been published, and she kind of grew up reading her poems to me, and they were like really free-form, lyrical sort of prose. So she got me into journaling, and now I kind of keep a physical journal where I'll either try and write about a page of just stuff a day. Like I'll wake up in the morning, like drink some coffee and just write whatever's in my head, and you'll be surprised what comes out, because you'll always filter what's happening to you emotionally at that time. And then I have, like a little notes in my phone that I kind of pull up and just scribble stuff into all the time. So I'm always writing, and I think when something is going to stick. And that's the same with writing words or playing on the guitar. All of a sudden you're playing a couple of different chords, and then you find out a part, and you're like, that's noticeable, that's distinguishable, that's something to work with. And then you might have a repeated phrase or just a really solid grouping of a couple of words that's like, that's a title. So for me, it's like you start with grabbing onto these things that immediately reach out to you, and then you kind of get them on a page. And I'm like almost like artificial confidence with writing songs, because I'll do things where I'll like find 2 chords and a title, and I'll be like, I know what this is going to be about, and then I just tell myself it's a song, and I'm like, that's a song, and I make like a 2-second voice memo on my phone. I've got like 2,000 voice memos on my phone, and I'm like, that's a song, I'll come back to that. For me now, like as I've built the process up over a few years and got a bit more discipline with it, I'll have about a day every week where I'll try and sit down and write a song, and I can usually turn that little spark into a song in about 2 hours, because songwriting...
That's hectic.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes and no. Like, yes, it is, but I think, like, we'll talk about this later with the whole discipline thing, I think, but, like, so much of songwriting is formulaic if you're trying to make stuff that is accessible to others. If you're comfortable saying you write songs for other people, which I'm comfortable saying that I release music because I want other people to enjoy it as well as myself. So I'm kind of learning the craft of the formula, where it's like, if you picked any pop song on the radio at the moment, I could tell you that they follow a pretty similar formula, and I'm like, okay, these words are pretty solid as a title, but we can work them into the chorus here, and then we're going to build the other 4 lines of the chorus around here, and then we've got a second verse, and there's another chorus, and there's a bridge, and then blah, blah, blah. And so just from having done it a lot, I was always a big advocate of learning other people's music, like just building up a massive backlog of learning other people's songs. And because I play an instrument, I can kind of like reference a lot of chord progressions from just listening to lots of popular music. So I have all this kind of craft in my head, and that makes it easier for me to turn a creative spark into a finished draft. But, you know, I would say, like, with songwriting, so much of it is an editing thing where, like, once you become like a really avid writer, you find a theme where you're like, my girlfriend broke up with me, and then you just have 20 pages of like, and then it's like, how do you edit this down into something that is cohesive and concise enough that it sounds like it should be on the radio? Like, that's probably the hardest part, I would say, is being disciplined about going, this is totally what I want to talk about, and this feels totally authentic to me, but now I have to edit down my raw emotions into something that is like a product. And it's 3 minutes 30, and it's going to be a radio friendly single. Like, that's probably the bit that is very tough for a lot of musicians and people who don't do that. They write 15-minute songs that are ambient and have a 10-minute guitar solo and blah blah blah, and like, that's valid as well. I respect that. I think if you want to make pop music and you want to make stuff,
it's got to be like relatable to people as well. So it's got to be like lyrics that they can connect with and understand with. And like you said, if it goes on too long, then, or if it's a very niche, story or niche feeling or emotion, then it's probably harder to connect with the people that you're trying to connect to, isn't it?
It's not for everybody. I don't think everyone, is going to be a pop writer, but there's a lot of discipline there with going like, this is playing by the rules of what I think is going to work for people and what is going to connect to others, but it's also honest. It's like you have to tick both boxes where it's like playing by the rules, but it's still something that's true to you, because, it's just never going to, I think people can see through that shit. Like, if you're not compelling and you're not doing something that's honest, then people know. Yeah.
And how many songs do you reckon you've written thus far? And what's your favourite songs? Or was there songs that, like you said before, that when you've been writing them or putting the words together, you've gone, oh, I'm onto something here, and like you've really got excited about?
I think one thing that's beautiful about songs is they're usually a time capsule of what was happening to you at the time. They're kind of like a tattoo. Like, you get it at a specific time and it reminds you of that specific time, and it's total chance what's happening. Like, you found this chord progression that's really good, and you happen to have a friend that just something good or bad happens to them, and it's just like it all comes in totally by chance, and it's just a beautiful, perfect storm when the great ones come through. I've always said, like, the inspiration will come, but it will come like a couple of times a year. And when it does come, like, you'll always write your best songs. When that inspiration comes, it just comes through. It's kind of like the live thing we were talking about before, where it's like a spirit thing that just comes through you, but you still have to show up for work every day. Like, I still write every day and write, songs really consistently, so that I have the craft part out of the way. So when the inspiration does come, I can kind of like take that shiny thing that's passing through your mind and build it into something real.
Well, the inspiration is like an emotion, really. It comes and goes. It's almost like it's like when I'm preaching to people about being motivated to do stuff. It's kind of like, all right, cool. It's very good that you want to do that thing. And you want to write the number one song. You want to, lose the 20 kilos, whatever it might be. It's, you actually, like you said, you got to rock up to work every day, because if you don't, and you just got to show, and it's just got to be sometimes the bare minimum of doing it. And then when the days hit and you get those beautiful little golden patches, awesome. It all falls into place and all clicks and all works.
Definitely. So, I mean, like, oh God, I've definitely written hundreds and hundreds of little scribbles. I think I've got like 50 works registered with APRA now. So like a few, I'm no Bruce Springsteen,
it's
but
insane, bro.
It's getting more and more consistent as I go along, and I'm finding that it gets easier. It's like,
and you're probably looking at track number 1 versus track 50 now, and you go, "What the fuck was I thinking at track
number
1?"
Definitely. Oh yeah, dude. Again, that's like there's some stuff that won't come out of the vault. I don't want to show anybody some of those early songs, but I can think of a song off the top of my head that's really important to me, just because of the time that it happened. There's a track called Hourglass that I released.
I listened to it literally yesterday.
Oh, cool. Yeah, right on. Yeah, so like that song is cool for me because it's about renewal. It's about starting over, and I wrote it when I had kind of been living in Melbourne, and then all of a sudden when COVID happened and the borders shut, I had like 3 days to pack a bag and come over, and I had no idea how long I was going to be there for. I ended up being down south in a caravan, like living on a bush block for like a couple months by myself, and it was a very introspective time of going like, who do I want to be? What is going to happen for me? And at that time I was just writing on the acoustic guitar, which I hadn't really ever done. And these songs were coming to me, and that song was like about starting over, building something from nothing, and going back to the place where you come from and that made you who you are, and beginning again. And so like that was the first song that I wrote for Sash Seabourne for the project, and it was the first song I started playing live, and like everything that's happening to me right now and that what has become my whole life has kind of come from that initial song and that initial spark. And I think back to it and go, that came to me at the right time, and it really set the tone for all the writing that's happened since then. And even though it's quite feels like an old song now, and that it happened quite a long time ago, it's still really special to me because it's like the initial spark of this whole path I've been going down.
That's awesome. It's an absolute tune as well. I'll make sure I get some links and,
plug.
Exactly later on, so everyone can make sure they go check it out on Spotify and everything else.
Yes.
Now, the thing that we, I guess connected on most when we were hanging out in Rudy Hill was we were going to the gym together, right? And then when we're in the gym, we're talking about, just everything gym related and wellness related.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I had no idea from the first performance that I was seeing you up in the top 50 week, and you had some baggy clothes on, kind of like what you got now.
Yeah.
No idea you're a fucking rig. Had no idea. I mean, I rock up at 155 Fitness in Rudy Hill.
Yes.
Oh, what the fuck? Look at this guy. He's a rig under there as well. So, and then you were telling me that you just came off doing a fitness challenge. And how much working out and you really getting into the wellness and mindfulness sort of side of things has helped you with your singing career. So tell us a little, and I was so interested about that. Tell us a little bit about how that started and what sort of stuff you've been up to.
Yeah, I would love to, man. It's been such a journey for me in the last few months. I mean, I think when you boil it down, I have two core values. And I would say that like passion is one, and I'm sure you can hear that in my voice, but like the other side of everything that I do is like passion and discipline.
Yep.
And the more I play into both of those two values, the more fruit life bears for me. So, when I signed up for the Idol thing, I was really falling into this world of pressure, and I wanted to get better, and it was all about like training for this big, it's almost like an athlete training for their competition.
Of course, it was the big day.
Yeah, it was the big day. So I had something to work towards, and I fell into just getting in love with fitness, and particularly like I got really into CrossFit and signed up for this big CrossFit challenge.
The cold. Yeah, you were there drinking from the cauldron.
Yeah, I was getting up early and going crazy, and I fully did that. And it was just, it's been an amazing chapter of me kind of going on this journey, working on myself and learning, like with music, there's such a stereotype that sends you the other way. There's such an expectation, like you're in a band, you like get lit every weekend and have huge nights and ride it off for a few days, and then you go and do it all again the next day, and you're kind of like this like 25-year-old chain smoking kind of like borderline unemployed muso guy. Like that is the stereotype, and like I have a lot of friends who I still love dearly but are still kind of living that life. And even though it was very difficult to step away from like the status quo and what is the most common scene around being a musician, like the best thing that I've done for myself in the last few years, I think, was to fall into fitness, because it's taught me about mindset, it's taught me about discipline, and it's like, it's just been such a teacher for me to reconnect with my body and wellness, and it's just sparked so much drive and ambition. And it's like, when you're a young man, like we both know so many dudes who will like, you have all this energy and you have all this kind of like pent up, either you have drive for the future, or a lot of us just have a lot of restlessness. We're worried about it's like, how are we going to afford a house? Are you ever going to meet someone that you want to love for the rest of your life? All these things, and most of us kind of put all that steam you got to blow off into like drinking 10 beers on the weekend, or like 20 beers, and being like, I'm just going to like have a blowout because I'm just restless. And like, I feel like I did that for years, and that it never really got me anywhere. I think I had this massive realization as a muso, because you are quietly in competition with people around you, where I really owned my bullshit last year. I feel like I admitted my failures for the first time, and you're like, I looked back on those years where I had been in a band and not blown up, so to speak, and I went, well, that's because you weren't good enough, and what are you going to do about it? Like, I had a tough conversation with myself where I was like, you need to step it up, and you need to get better if you want to roll with the big dogs and you want to do this for real. And I expected that of myself all of a sudden. So I was like, this is my purpose. This is who I am. Like, this is what I want to do. And anything that is outside of me reaching my goal as a musician is something I don't have much time for anymore. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices in my life. And I quit drinking alcohol at that time. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't take drugs. I don't do anything like that anymore. don't care if you do, like, respect, no worries. I still have most of my best friends who do that all the time, but I just go out to the pub and have a fucking soda water like a loser because I'm committed. You know, I feel like I read into...
I guess when you've got something, not... The thing is that I think that you maybe don't go, oh yeah, that's like it. I think you do understand that not everybody has it, but I definitely sometimes don't understand that not everybody has the same drive and goal and this ultimate thing that you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah,
and
not necessarily.
And you know, that's actually really hard for people to find, but when you do find it, you want to do everything you possibly can to make sure that you reach that. Totally. So yeah, I can identify that for sure.
I think it's just chasing something that is your values and what is true to you and what makes you happy. If that's like, I just want to be the best dad I can possibly be, or I just want to build a house for myself, or I just want to win a battle with my mental health, which is so much of that was just for me, like, I just want to look myself in the mirror and not hate myself, like, to be real. You know, like, I think it's such a tough time where we're all, as young men, looking for guidance. We're looking for what comes next. And I really used the platform on Idol to kind of talk about this, not in a preachy way of like, look at me, I didn't want to be misconstrued in that way. It's not like I've worked on myself and now I'm a big dog or something like that. It's not like that at all. It was just that I have rebuilt a relationship with myself where now I feel like a proud person and now I can kind of walk with my head held high a lot more because I learned that discipline, and it's that self-discipline equals self-respect equals self-esteem thing. So you get up early, you go and do something that sucks in the morning, like go and do a CrossFit workout. Like it's horrendous. Like I hate it. Like you're just like puffing and gassed and covered in chalk, and it's early in the morning. But then you like get out of there and you're like, I smashed it. You know, like I did that, and that's what I said I was going to do, and I put my money where my mouth is, and I started my day on the right note. And then everything that you do in that day that sucks less, you know, it feels easier and it feels like an achievement. So, you know, exercise is for me, like when you say I wear baggy clothes and stuff, I don't feel like a gym bro. I don't really go around being like, check out my abs or anything like that. It's you
should, because they're good enough to do so.
Thank you. But for me, like, I don't do it because
of that.
For abs, I do it because I need to do it
Yep.
for my mental health. And like,
totally.
You know, working out is just one part of a wellness practice for me that is like symbolic of discipline, symbolic of mindset. And as soon as I asked for more out of myself, I became proud of who I was. And that has been such a paradigm shift for me.
When you brought up discipline when we were training in Rudy Hill, it was actually something that I didn't really think that, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, if you had to describe me in a couple of words, I would say discipline. But when you were talking about that going to the gym for you and getting up and doing that, that was really part of that discipline behavior for you. And then that setting you up to, you know, achieve everything else with your music and be consistent with, you know, you're setting your goals and achieving them and all that sort of thing. Yeah. It got me thinking about my stuff, and I was like, fuck, maybe because the gym has just been something that I've always done.
Yeah.
For, you know, the last 11 years. I'm in there just about every day doing something.
You are.
So it probably didn't click to me that it was like, oh shit, that's actually like, you know, that's something to take a little bit more credit for anybody out there that is going to the gym, who goes on their walks, that goes for a run or whatever. Got to give yourself a bit of credit for actually doing those things and enjoying those things and waking up and doing them, for sure.
Yeah, it's discipline and it's accountability. You know, it's like I put my money where my mouth is, and I said I was going to do something and I did it and I followed through. And I think you are a disciplined guy and a pretty high functioning guy, and you should, you know, not like be a cockhead about it, but like be healthy pride in yourself for what you've achieved. And like that's just something that I wish to kind of impart to others, because I got so much out of it. You know, it's like I take that the exercise thing is just become a metaphor in my life for how I approach music and how I approach work and how I approach like my family. And like, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because it's like you inspire me in that way, because you're such a lord with exercise and the way that you run your business and being so committed to the cause. And like, I respect that. You know, it's like with music, there's such this culture of like burnout, like people who are homeless and like barely have a job or something and like doing music. It's like I never connected with any of that, and what going into an exercise filled environment is like it's synonymous with motivation. Like I go out in the morning and like do sets in the gym, and then I take that attitude into going and do sets in the rehearsal studio, and I'm building a better, I'm in competition with myself to be better than myself, better than yesterday, better than who I was yesterday. And I think that has brought me more success in music in the last 12 months than it ever has before. And that's purely because I borrowed that mindset from people who are motivated and people who do exercise. So that like hats off to you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, bro. And like I said, it's just it's so cool when you're seeing not just the benefits of when you're getting into the gym, not just your feeling, but how it affects you so positively in every other aspect of your life. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's sick. And do you do any like mindfulness and meditation stuff? I've only literally just got into this as of recently.
Cool.
And I'm fucking rating it. It's
Into it?
really good. Yeah. Were you doing anything or are doing anything currently?
I was always interested in that world, and I had a lot of like kind of older, my dad's friends and kind of male figures in my life who were into meditation. So I got into it when I was like a teenager and kind of did it on and off going forward. I'm an advocate for the mindfulness stuff, and I think doing mindful activities is really good for your headspace, also like your creativity. Like I try and turn the phone off and meditate, or even just do something like clean the garden and be in the sunshine for a little bit. Like I think having mindfulness in the back of your head is great for dealing with stress and anxiety. I just got into the whole breath work thing, you know, like the Wim Hof method.
I've just started doing a few bits and pieces with this as well. And you feel like the actual feeling is fucking and it sounds so, until you go and do it, I always heard people, because I work with, you know, all the different athletes that I work with, and they've got all these great psychologists and resources that they do stuff for, and they're always like, they touch on it. But I hadn't really given it a proper good go. Yeah. And I've given it a real good go the last little while, and oh my gosh, bro, you feel just unreal.
Into it. Hey, I've always been someone who drank a lot of coffee because I was like kind of, I guess, low dopamine naturally. But I've just been doing that in the morning, like a 10-minute round of breathing, and I feel like I've had 2 coffees or 3 coffees.
Just recharged, eh?
Yeah, and I think...
Help with your sleep as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exercise and then that, and then also like, you know, doing the ice bath and doing all sort of that stuff, like and eating well, like it all kind of feeds into like a wellness practice. And I think there's probably heaps of blokes or dudes in Australia who would listen to us talking about all this stuff and be like, bloody breath work or bloody...
But I was literally one of them weeks ago, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and I was going, like, it wasn't even long ago. Dude. And now I've properly just gone, all right, I'm going to actually immerse myself in this and give it a proper go. I've just gone, holy shit, how haven't I been doing this for longer? So
it's so real.
I just went and got the Calm app and was just like doing stuff off Calm, like the breathwork stuff on there, some of the meditations, the bedtime stories. Bang, bro. I'm like regularly I'd be sitting there, I'd put the TV on and I'd, you know, try to fall asleep. I'd like to have some sort of like noise going on. Yeah. And then we switched the last week or so of doing the bedtime stories. Matthew McConaughey just, you know, reads me to sleep every night now. And I put that on. I do not even last to the end of the 10 minutes I'm out. Like, it's unbelievable, And
people will talk shit about this, but they also probably suffer from anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, and
most definitely.
And they probably find that drinking 10 pints on the weekend isn't helping. So like, I'm definitely an advocate for all of this sort of stuff. Like it's done a lot for me and my mindset. And like, I think just in the day and age where we're at, where like, you know, male mental health is more of a conversation than ever, which is cool, but I think it's more of an issue than ever as well. Like, I mean, I just felt like I was someone that had so much anxiety and was struggling so much with my own personal demons in the last few years. Like, I'm a big advocate of like, if you haven't tried any of this stuff, give it a go. Just see what works for you. Cause it's not
all going to work. It's not all going to land.
Yeah, it's a huge space.
But you just got to like just dip your toe in and just see what happens. And trust me, there's a reason why people do it. Yeah, and there's people why people would talk about it and they do it religiously, because you just feel fucking awesome afterwards.
You're still doing the ice baths as well, aren't you?
We're going to do it. I'm going to go on Friday. You want to come Friday?
All right, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come do Friday. I was actually looking at buying one. They're hella expensive.
Yeah, I imagine they would be.
So expensive. But it's not actually like, because the bath is just a bath. You can buy whatever, but it's like the chiller pump for it. Yeah. They're like $6 or $7 grand just for the chiller pump thing. As in like, that's like a El Cheapo one. So
oh my God.
I might just keep going down Helix House down Cottesloe and doing the drive and doing that every time I need one. But that, you know, goes in with the discipline stuff. But I was actually reading into the ice bath, the benefits a little bit more of doing the ice baths. Yeah. So there's a hormone that's released called norepinephrine. Do you know how I remember that? Nora, okay, it's not spelt like that. Shout out Nora, yeah. But but that's how I remember, because I was like, oh, it's not actually how it's spelt, but that's how it's said. So I was like norepinephrine. Anyway, and that gets released, right? And that's what gives you this real euphoric feeling after. And it's the same hormone that gets released. Have you heard of like oh my God, it's called rest. and rest and digest. Have you heard that? So there's like fight or flight,
Okay.
and then there's rest and digest, which is sort of like all the stuff that's happening to you without you kind of realizing.
Yeah.
Like all the movements and all the energy and everything that your body's using without you actually needing to do anything. And it kickstarts that just that little bit more.
Yeah,
so
right.
you come out of there feeling an absolute $1,000,000.
You do. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you're just supercharged.
Yeah.
Like, and it's. I mean, I just like was such a coffee like addict. Like it was really ridiculous for a bit there, and I've just found that like it's that high that you were looking for, that a lot of people are looking for in all sorts of things, but you don't get the crash. There's no kind of like downside of it, and so yeah, I'm a big advocate. I'm into it.
Most definitely. Hey, thanks so much for coming in, and hey, really good fun, and so great to hear all your stories and everything about Idol, and I can't wait to see what the next little bits are going to look for you. What have you got coming up?
Dude, it's going to be a really big year. You know, I feel like I've just jumped into the first couple of days of like a whole new chapter. You know,
Have you had people recognise it yet?
Tons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Bird on Friday and I was taking some photos on William Street and I was like filling up my
How
cup.
good is that?
It's cool. I mean, I know that it's kind of like for Idol, but I'm hoping that, you know, with a lot of work this year and I'm putting a lot of songs out, we can kind of convert that into something long term. I was like filling my car up. Just like at the petrol station, some guy was like, "Sash, mate," across the thing.
You're
I was
joking.
like, yeah, yes. I voted for you, mate.
Oh, thanks, mate. Sure, you
Yeah,
fucking did. I
thank
wouldn't
you.
be here if you
Didn't
fucking
vote for
did.
you enough, mate. What are you doing? No, it's really exciting. You know, there's like all this new audience, and that's exactly what I wanted out of the show. So, you know, May is the first time that we can release music again. So I think I'm going to be putting a single out in May.
Can't wait to hear, bro. And have you got it ready to go, or you kind of in the works and you're building something up?
It's very much in the works. I won't give too much away.
Yeah, okay,
but
don't.
Excited to do that, and then you know, next comes some shows, and I've been reaching out, wondering where in Australia we should be going to. So I think it would be a big national run.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man, just like releasing a lot of music, playing a lot of shows live, and just put myself out there this year. So that's what I'm about. It's exciting.
And where can everybody find you right now? On Spotify, YouTube, Instagram? Tell us all your handles.
Just at Sash Seabourne on all socials. And if you want to listen to the music, it's streaming on all platforms, Sash Seabourne.
Fantastic. So good, bro. Well, like I said, thank you so much for coming on down. It's been great to catch up again. Ice Bath Friday. Can't wait. Dude. It's going to be great.
Keen for the song to come out as well.
I'm so keen for this song. Straight to the top. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Thanks, bro.
And that's another episode of Poddy Majic all wrapped up. Thank you so much. And that's another episode of Poddy Majic all wrapped up. Thank you so much, Sash, for coming down and doing that episode with me. It was so great to hear all that insight and really, really